Good morning, everybody. Guess what? We are now on month 8. I am so excited. So, let's get started. You'll look at your month block here and we pull out our fabrics and let's get them cut. First thing we're going to cut is our background fabric. And as always, I'm going to be using the Stripology ruler. And we're going to get that lined up and we're going to make 3 cuts. We're going to make 1 cut at 5.5 inches. And then we're going to make 2 cuts at 2.5. Place the 2.5 inch strips off to the side. Now, from the 5.5 inch strip, we are going to cut 2 squares that are 5.5 by 5.5. So this is 2 layers of fabric. And then 4 squares. We are going to make 4 squares that are 5 inches by 5 inches. 2, 3, 4, 5. And because I did this on the Stripology ruler, this one and this one need to be trimmed down to 5 inches because one side is 5.5. So this is, I'm starting at 10 on this, so I can go that. And we've cut now 4 at 5 inches for our background fabric. After our background fabric, we're going to take a piece that was the remaining from block. This is your L1. This is from month 6, and this needs to be cut 4 squares that are 5 inches. Then we're going to take our M2, and this is a remainder from block 4, and we are going to need 2 that are 5.5. Now we're going to go to our D1, and we are going to cut 1 5.5 inch strip, and we need total of 4 5.5 inch squares. Voila! So now we have all of our pieces. Almost forgot. We almost forgot our 2.5 inch strips. From our 2.5 inch strips, we need 2 that are 2.5 by 12.5, and then 8 2.5 inch squares. So there's 6 so far 2.5 inch squares. My 12.5 inch strip. And so I need 2 more 2.5 inch squares. Now we are done with the cutting and we can proceed on to our blocks. So we are starting with our blocks. We are going to take 2 background pieces that are 5.5 by 5.5, 2 M2 pieces that are 5.5 by 5.5, and 4 dark D1s that are 5.5 by 5.5. You are going to take all of your D1 pieces and we are going to draw a line on it. I discovered I like this long narrow ruler. It's 1 inch wide by Creative Grids. And we're going to draw a line down the center on all 4 of the D1 pieces. And then you're going to pair up the D1 pieces with 2 D1s for your M2 and 2 D1s for your background. So you're going to place them right sides together, and I like to come in and wonder clip like this. We are now going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of the drawn line, and the instructions do recommend a scant, so either do a scant or just bring your foot just slightly over the line that you drew and sew a line on each one of those. After you have sewn those together, you'll have your 4 pieces. I'm just going to place my ruler on my drawn line that I drew, and we're going to go in and we're going to, it is recommended you're going to press it to the D1 side as opposed to pressing it open, because the way that these butt up with each other. But you got to make sure that you also have your background, and you're going to do the same thing. Press that to the D1 side. After you press them together, you're going to come in and you see where the dark one is here. I want to make sure that I'm placing the dark pieces opposite of each other. And if you pressed your seams to the dark, I press mine open just out of habit, but if you press to the dark, you're able to butt them up to each other. If you press them open, then you have to come in, open that up, and line this up and pin it. So I discovered these new pins. These are wonderful. Then what you also need to do is on one side of these, we are going to draw another line. And notice the line is drawn opposite of our seam. So I'm going to draw a line there. Let me kind of, you can kind of see the pink line. Not great, but kind of. And then you're going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of that line, just like you did before. So I have sewn across that line. I am going to cut this now, and then I like to come and press it open. And what you will get here is that you have your M2, your D1, and your background piece on each one of those. So after I have pressed that open, I'm going to come in and we are going to square this up to 4.5 inches. So I'm taking my Creative Grids ruler. We got a 45-degree line here. I'm going to line it up with this, and it's 4.5 inches. So half of 4.5 is 2 1/4. So I'm going to have my 2 1/4 mark here line up with my center point here. I'm going to have my 45-degree line line up with my seam. I'm going to see that my 2 1/4 is lined up at my center here, and you could see here 4.5 is right here on this line, and 4.5 is right there on that line. If it's not exact, you could bring that down and line that up so the lines are lined up. Then I turned it, and then I just line up my ruler at 4.5, bottom and the side, and I could double check to make sure that my 45-degree line is lining up with my seam line. And you're going to do that for all 8 squares like this. Next, we're going to make our other square. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next part. You're going to take your background piece and your L1 piece. On the back of the L1, I'm going to draw a line, one line. Okay, after I've drawn that line, we're going to, on the wrong side of fabric, we're going to place right sides together. Again, I just take my Wonder Clips, clip these corners here so it doesn't move. And then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of that line. After I have sewn that line, I'm going to take my ruler, place this on the line that I drew. Now you can press this over, you can either press this over to the M1 or you can press it open. I chose to press mine open. On my color scheme here, so we have, and I can press the seam open, L1 and our background piece. We are now going to square this up to 4.5 by 4.5. So I'm going to take my ruler, line up my 45-degree line on my seam line, make sure that 4.5 here. I got 4.5 all the way around, and then I just turned it, and we're going to do 4.5 by 4.5. After we squared that up, now we are going to take one of those background pieces that's 2.5 by 2.5 on the wrong side. We're going to draw another line on that piece, and we're going to place it on the piece that we had just done. We got our M1 here. We're going to take this piece, we're going to line it up here like this. My drawn line is perpendicular to my sewing seam. So again, this is the background, and this is L1, and then we're going to put the 2.5 inch background square on there. We're going to sew directly on that line. After we have done that, I'm going to place my ruler a 1/4 inch away from the seam that I had just sewn, and we're going to cut that away. And you can either come in and press this up, or you can press it open. I chose to press them open. Next, now we're going to construct the block. So we're going to lay out our pieces. So here's the block. This one's really neat because now you actually got the background piece in there. I like to lay them out so that I can see them. I'm going to sew this piece to this piece, this one to this one, and this one to this one. So after we have sewn them together, we are now going to sew this piece to here, and then this piece to here. Now I want to show you, as I pinned these, I came in, and then I folded this back, lined up my seam, came to the next one, and I pulled this back, and I'm lining up my vertical points and my seam so that my points will match up, and I will do that for all the rows. And then once we get it together, this is what that block will look like. We only put one strip on, and we are just going to take your 2.5-inch strip and sew it to the top. And then month 8 is done. All right, ladies, I will see you next month. You take care. All right, bye.